That's enough for people. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda of the regular council meeting of Monday, June 8th, 2026? Councillor Brissette, Councillor Stetsky. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of Monday, May 25th, 2026? Councillor Pete Popoff and Councillor Ray. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. I now recess the meeting to enter into a public hearing tonight. We have one public hearing. The public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 29 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act to consider the city's application to the Provincial Agricultural Land Commission to exclude land from the Agricultural Land Reserve on behalf of the owners of the subject property located at 3202 Edgewood Drive, legally described as Lot H, District Lot 36, Cooney District Plan 2668. The purpose of the application is to request that the property be excluded from the Agricultural Land Reserve is to facilitate subdivision of the property. This public hearing is being held in person and electronically, with residents and interested parties being given the opportunity to express their views. This meeting is being broadcast live on the city's website, and there's a link on the homepage that will take you directly to the meeting. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be given an opportunity to be heard. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it is important that all who speak at this meeting restrict their remarks to matters contained within the bylaws, and it is my responsibility as chair of this meeting to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. Members of council may ask you questions following your submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public and not debate the merits of the proposed bylaws with the individual citizens. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaws should, at the appropriate time, begin by clearly stating your name and address, and then give us the benefit of your views. You would be given 5 minutes for your submission. I will call for submissions 3 times for each bylaw. Once the public hearing is closed, members of council cannot take further input regarding the proposed bylaws, and will then deal with the bylaws during the regular meeting of council held after the public hearing. I will call on members of the public who are in the chamber tonight to speak first. If you wish to provide comments, please come up to the podium, provide your name and address before giving your comments. If you're on the phone waiting to speak, callers will be identified by the last 2 digits in their phone number, or if you have pre-registered, we will call you by name. Please make sure you know the number from which you are calling from and listen for it to be called. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be allowed to unmute yourself by pressing *6, and you will have the opportunity to provide your views. If you have not pre-registered and wish to speak, please press *3 on your phone to signal staff you wish to address council. I will now call for submissions regarding an application to exclude land located at 3202 Edgewood Drive from the Agricultural Land Reserve. In the gallery, anything on the phone?
Mayor Price, we have no pre-registered speakers and we have nobody waiting in the queue on the phone.
Thank you. I will now call a second time for submissions. And seeing nothing, I will call for a third and final time for submissions. Having hearing no comments, I will now close the public hearing. I now reconvene the regular meeting for Monday, June 8th, 2026. Moving right into new business this evening. The first item tonight is from Engineering Development Services regarding development variant permits 3090.20.2605 at property located at 108 Grandview Place. Can I have staff give us a brief overview of this report, please? Santana?
Evening, Mayor and Council. It's a little close. This application is being presented to you this evening for consideration of 4 different variances for the illegal structure located at 108 Grandview Place North. For some brief history on the file, the bylaw staff were notified of an illegal structure in 2023. The property owner was informed multiple times of the need to bring the structure into compliance by providing or applying for any and all necessary permits. This would include any variances, any rezoning, anything that would need to come forward. It was identified that a building permit would have been sufficient, and then further variances were identified when the applicant submitted their building permit application in January 2025. The variances are for setback requirements and separation distances between the primary structure and an accessory structure. We did some file history, desktop and mapping research, the engineer drawings, and multiple site visits by both building, bylaw, and fire and emergency services staff. It appears that the subject accessory structure has been modified from 2 sheds with a roof structure placed over top attached to both buildings. You can see in attachment 1 the aerial imagery that shows the progression of the construction since 2023. Since over 2009, basically. Those structures were placed legally. They don't require building permits as they're under the 10 square meter required minimum. So they snuck past those, but they did comply with the zoning bylaw requirements of the time. So for this current application, it's understood to be used as a wood shop, and they require the following variances to bring it into compliance. They require a reduced interior side yard setback to the west side of the property from 2.7 meters to 2.24 meters, reduced separation between the accessory structure and the primary building from 1 meter to 15 centimeters, 0.15 meters, a reduced interior side yard setback to the east side of the accessory structure from 0.9 meters to 0.28 meters, and then a reduced separation between the accessory wood storage shed and primary building from 1 meter to 0 meters. Attachment 2 identifies in order of those same variances the way they're presented, where on the property. It's color coordinated. So the staff recommendation for all of these variances is based on comments from staff's professional review, both fire and emergency, building, bylaw, and planning and engineering. In general, for number 1, the reduced interior side yard setback from the west side is a supportable relaxation, as we're seeing reduced side yard setbacks across the town from 2.7 to 1.5. 2.7 was a historical requirement, I think, way back from the 50s. We've seen it in that bylaw, so this would be an updated one that complies with, or it seemed appropriate regardless. The following 3 variances, staff have recommended not approval. Generally, the reason being is that these relaxations would create obstructions from the primary residence building to the, obstructions to the egress. So just would pose significant risk to emergency services and the occupants should an emergency occur. The reduced interior side yard to the east side of the property is not supportable as it encroaches into and essentially touches the neighbor's property, which just poses risk to the neighbor, which is not subject to that. And then the reduced separation between the accessory wood storage and primary building is just a non-supportable one as it's highly combustible and within the encroachment of the setbacks. So they do all introduce risk to person and property that are not subject to the application, which staff don't believe are in the public interest. We did distribute notices to the adjacent properties as required, and no comments have been received once that application was sent out. We have received historical complaints, but There are some alternatives presented. You'll notice that there isn't an alternative for each one. And if you have any questions about why, it's generally because they are approval of these relaxations would just impose additional hardship to neighboring properties, which we can't support. Yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you very much, Santana. Can I get a motion that council approve the relaxation to the interior side yard setback of the west side property line for property 108 Grandview Place from 2.7 meters to 2.24 meters for development variance permit 3090.20.2605. A mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council not approve the relaxation to the separation between the accessory structure and the primary building for property 108 Grandview Place from 1 meters to 0.15 meters for development variance permit 3090.20.2605. Mover, please. Councillors Popoff, Councillor Ray. Discussion. Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. Two questions, if I may, Santana. First, if we don't approve these variances, what's the next steps for the city?
To Councillor Peabody through the chair. The next steps for the city would be to, we would likely take more of an enforcement approach and require the removal of the structure. Or we could work with them on identifying an updated design that would comply.
Okay. And did either of these or any of these variances, did they ever go to the Board of Variance or did it just go straight to council?
Further to Councillor Peabody through the chair, they did submit their application to the Board of Variance initially and the Board of Variance denied.
Okay, thank you.
Further, council? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Can I get a motion that council not approve the relaxation to the interior side yard setback to the east side for property 108 Grandview Place from 0.9 meters to 0.28 meters for development variance permit 3090.20.2605. Mover, please. Councillor Blissett, Councillor Popoff. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried as well. Can I get a motion that council not approve the relaxation to the required separation between the accessory wood storage shed and the primary building for property 108 Grandview Place from 1 meter to 0 meters for the development variance permit 3090.20.2605. Mover, please. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Bassett. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Santana. Next item for tonight is from Engineering Development Services regarding a minor variance permit for parking reduction at Cozy Bear Lodge. We also have staff on hand to give us a brief overview of the report. Is that you, Santana, again? Yep. Floor is yours.
Thanks. The this minor variance application is for a 50% reduction to parking for a commercial property. Typically, these applications are outlined in the Delegation and Development Services bylaw, but there is a clause that allows for the delegated authority to refer it to council should they believe for any purpose that it's for visibility or considered important for council to review. So we've got The rationale is that the minor variance classification is being interpreted as a short-term accommodation as opposed to hotel motel, or such as hotel motel, although this project is being marketed as a housing project. So it's up for council consideration. The rationale for the relaxation is due to site constraints related to the existing lot, as the Ministry of Transportation has required their highway access to be closed. Therefore, the site cannot accommodate the required number of parking spaces. When the hotel was built, originally, the amount of parking spaces that were required was compliant. So now we're dealing with an adjustment in the use to accommodate the required parking. So in addition to the relaxation, staff recommend including a requirement for landscape along the frontage to align with goals to beautify the highway and ensure that access from their highway area or from their parking to the highway is not used.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to council approve minor development variance permit 3090.20.2607 to reduce the required parking for a short-term accommodation by 50% from 31 stalls to 16 stalls for the property 621 Cranbrook Street North for Crazy Bear Lodge. Mover, please. Councillor Ray, Councillor Popoff. Discussion, Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Two questions. I was surprised to read that in the notes that it may be used by someone other than seniors. I thought that entire development was for homeless seniors.
Councillor Stetsky through the chair. BC Housing has advised us that that'll be determined. The users and occupants will be determined by the operator.
Okay, and why did Highways decide to close the access off of, because that access has been there forever when it was a motel, was it not?
Councillor Stetsky through the chair. Yes, the Ministry of Transportation is trying to limit how many highway accesses are allowed, especially because the property has access through 7th Street, which is
7th.
just right there. So if they have adjacent property or adjacent street access, they're closing those highway accesses.
Okay, so that's a policy that we may see more of in the future then.
Correct.
Okay.
Further, council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next item is also from Engineering Development Services regarding an application for exclusion from the Agricultural Land Reserve at 3202 Edgewood Drive. Can I please have staff give a brief overview of this report as well? Connor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is back one final time, just subject to the public hearing that just occurred for the application. This was submitted some time ago for the applicants at 3202 Edgewood Drive to, they have to apply through the city to have us apply on their behalf to the province to exclude land from the Agricultural Land Reserve, and this has to be an application that's submitted formally to the Agricultural Land Commission. So it is back one final time tonight prior to being able to submit, just for a request for approval to continue the submission. That's very simply what, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Can I get a motion that subject to council's consideration of the public input received up to and including the public hearing of June 8, 2026, council authorize the application to be forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission on behalf of the owner of the subject property to seek exclusion of the property legally described as, pardon me, Lot H, District Lot 36, Kootenai District Plan 2668, located at 3202 Edgewood Drive. Councillor Lissette. Councillor Popoff. Pardon me, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Too much talking. Pardon me. The next item is also from Engineering Development Services regarding develop variance permit 3090.20.2608 for the Rotary Club of Cranbrook Senior Housing Project. Can I have staff give us an overview of that? And we got Rob.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I feel like it's been a while since I've been here, so hi. So what we have before us here is a request by the Rotary Club of Cranbrook seeking a development variance to setbacks and parking for the proposed seniors housing project on the land being donated by the city. If Council recalls, we gave them agent authorization to make applications necessary to proceed while we were waiting for some of the land issues to be resolved. So this application has been received as well as the development permit. And we now have title raised to the lot. And so we're able to look at proceeding with these applications. So the request for variance is twofold. One for parking. So they're requesting a reduction in the number of parking stalls from 2 per dwelling unit to 1 per dwelling unit. So it would be 24 stalls to 12, so 1 for each unit. And then reducing the front yard from 7.6 meters to 2.7 meters for building 1, which would be the portion adjacent to sort of 5th Ave in the corner, or sorry, 5th Street South on the plot plan, and then reducing the interior side yard from 4.5 to 1.83 meters for the east, from the east property line for building 3 being the furthest building back from the road adjacent to the St. Mary's School parking lot. In support of the application, Rotary had noted that the setback, particularly from the front yard, while it may seem to be a reduction to 2.7 meters, it's actually going to be approximately 5.5 meters from the finished landscaping because there's going to be the pathway connected to Rotary there. And then regarding the side yard setback to 1.83 due to the slope and the grade elevation difference between the parking lot and the site, they'd indicate that keeping the building closer to the side property line is from a site layout perspective is what they're looking for. And then of course the parking being 1 stall per unit, and based on their experience of having affordable units for Rotary seniors, often they indicate that few residents have vehicles. So that would be consistent with what we've also seen in other variances that have been granted. So notices were sent out to adjacent property owners and occupiers. At the time of writing this report, no comments were received other than 1 inquiry from St. Mary's School principal, and I did forward all the council package information or the link to the council information to them. Yeah, and from a staff perspective, as noted, no significant concerns regarding the proposed variances given the location and the nature of the requests and the development itself, which is reflected in the resolution proposed. So.
Thanks very much, Rob. Can I get a motion that council approve a development variant permit to vary section 6.12.4C, number of required off-street parking spaces, and section 7.10, medium density multiple family residential zone, R5, subsection 6A1 and 3, citing of the City of Cranbrook zoning bylaw as follows. Reduce the number of required off-street parking stalls from 2 per dwelling to 1 per dwelling. That will be 24 stalls to 12 stalls. Number 2, reduce the front yard from 7.6 meters to 2.74 meters for building 1 and adjacent to 5th Street South. And number 3, reduce the interior side yard from 4.5 meters to 1.83 from the east property line for building 3 for the proposed 12-unit affordable seniors housing project proposed on the subject property legally described as Lot 1, District Lot 22, Kootenay District Plan EPP 150489, located at 5th Street South. Mover, please. Councillor Ray. Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. So we've been asked this evening to deal with 3 variances, and just in terms of process, I'm trying to figure out how come council is looking at these variances versus the delegated authority that I thought we had provided.
Sure. So through the mayor to Councilor Seskey, so these variances exceed what's allowable under what's considered the minor variance delegation. So it's the actual amount. We're limited by percentages of amount. So for example, the setback would be, I think it's 25% up to a maximum of like 1.5 meters, and we're beyond that. So some of these, yeah.
Other questions? Call the question, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, Rob. Next item is also from Engineering Development Services regarding Municipal and Regional District Tax Program Renewal, MRDT, in 2027. And I believe we have Darren on hand who's going to give us a brief overview of the report. Darren?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so we are here today to seek council direction to for a renewal and structure of the municipal and region district tax program for the city of Cranbrook designated accommodation area. So the MRDT, or municipal and region district tax, is a provincial program jointly administered by the BC Ministry of Finance, the BC Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and Destination BC. The MRDT is an accommodation tax collected to fund tourism, marketing, programs, and projects. Program agreements are for 5-year terms. Municipalities and regional districts may either administer the MRDT program directly or delegate administration to a service provider. Cranbrook and Region Tourism Society, DBA Visit Cranbrook, is the designated recipient and service provider on behalf of the city of Cranbrook. Of the 43 designated accommodation areas listed in the legislation, 33 of the local governments, let me start again. 33 have the local government as a designated recipient, and 10, including the city of Cranbrook, have societies or organizations as a designated recipient. Eligible uses of the MRDT. So generally used for marketing, predominantly what you see most out there, media advertising and production, website hosting, development, maintenance, social media management platforms and tools, consumer shows and events, collateral production and distribution, travel media relations, travel trade activities. You can also use it for destination and product experience management, industry development and training to enhance education and knowledge, product experience enhancement and training, research, evaluation and analytics. You can also use it for visitor services, meetings, conventions, events and sport, conferences, events, sales initiatives, and sports related initiatives. Also recently, affordable housing was added as an initiative. There is a guide attached to the report to council that covers all of this. The MRDT renewal program. The authority of the level of the MRDT needs to be renewed every 5 years per the following timeframes. 6 months prior to the repeal date, if the intent is to leave the MRDT unchanged. 9 months prior to the repeal date, if there is a request to increase the MRDT above the standard rate or another prescribed use. I won't go through all the things that are required, but there's a list there for the renewal program of the required documents. I'll jump to the additional prescribed purposes. The designated recipient can request approval to allocate MRDT revenues towards an additional prescribed purpose. These purposes include activities or expenditures that fall outside of a standard MRDT program. Most commonly, capital infrastructure related costs or new tourism facilities. Such requests require approval from the province on a case-by-case basis. A list of approved requests are shown in Schedule 3 of the Act. Requests for additional prescribed purpose may be submitted as a part of a new MRDT allocation or during the renewal process. It must be clearly reflected in the 5-year business plan and demonstrate broad stakeholder support. And I'll pass over to Mike.
Thank you very much, Darren. So that's a lot of information, and there is even a lot more information that we didn't include in there, but there's links for those that enjoy reading all the information, like on the Destination BC website. But really what we're here in front of council today is really to talk about the next steps and timelines as far as decision making and a work back process. So as mentioned, the repeal date is January 1st, 2028. So if we did want to do a standard renewal, with no changes to the designated recipient or no additional prescribed purposes. Then we'd be looking at a July 1st, 2027 submission. Any changes, then we're looking at that 9-month window. That's that April 1st, 2027. We could submit early, and it's still going to take that 9 months for those changes. And the process really will require a lot of strategic planning and engagement, even if it is a basic renewal. Those requirements, when it comes to working on that 5-year business plan, it is fairly robust, and there is a lot of work that goes behind it. And especially if there's a consideration of any changes from council's perspective, then it requires even more work and engagement. So really what we're, when we get some direction from council today on generally how they want to look going forward, we would be looking, this summer and to look at those options development, to narrow down some of those options. If we're looking at something different than the status quo, that's going to take some staff time and resources to put together those various options and some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks of it. And even though it's summer, we're going to need to be working on those items if that's the direction that we go. And then summer, fall of 2026, selecting those options and coming up with that new structure. So we do have a go forward plan. And then looking at the fall or winter for that, public and stakeholder engagement. And then winter and spring 2027, obviously we need to have that business case development and application done. So even though it's 1.5 years from now, as far as that renewal date with those application lead times, that work does need to start soon and needs to continue. And then Darren provided some great information there just in general about some of the data that we have with the tourism metrics and the collected funds.
Thanks, Mike. Can I get a motion that council direct staff to prepare a report outlining options for the renewal structure of the municipal and regional district tax program, including consideration of additional prescribed purposes and assignment of the designated recipient? Mover, please. Councillor Popoff, Councillor Stetsky. Discussion. Councillor Stetsky, Councillor Peabody.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So there's a lot of words there, but are there sort of like 3 fundamental areas that you would bring back? Number one is, does Cranbrook Tourism control how the money's spent, or does the city control how the money is spent? Is that one of the questions? Secondly, I'll just list them all. In terms of what the money can be spent on, is that not part of the provincial legislation, or can we add things that we'd like to see it spent on? And the third one is how much the tax will be, which I think is currently 3% in Cranbrook.
Councillor Stetsky, through the mayor, correct. That generally is what we're looking at. And even within those options, there's other nuances that would need to be looked at. Other communities, and that's what we need to look at, is if we're looking at a different designated recipient, then what would be, what process would we have for selection? There's a fair bit of administrative burden for any entity to be doing all of that work. And that's when, even if local governments are the designated recipient, they would still have the option to either themselves administer those funds or to still work with a service provider to have the funds flow through them to do it, but have more of a fee for service agreement on the distribution of those funds, where we still have a little bit more say in the use of those, but within the framework of the legislation. And that goes into that next question as well. Yes, those additional prescribed purposes, as Darren alluded to, do have to be restricted to generally tourism marketing. But if you do look at the legislation, it does stipulate in that legislation that there are communities that have requested and received approval for special cases, even including sewer infrastructure, sewer treatment in one unique circumstance. Our neighbors and the city of Kimberley did have some specific funding in there to work with their events and conference center. So we would still have to play within the guidelines, but we'd also have the opportunity to see how, since this legislation is still evolving, maybe we have some ability to look at some out of the box opportunities. And then the rate is certainly one of those items in there. I think that's not to say that's secondary to some of those conversations, but that would be a part of that discussion.
So is 3% the maximum that you're allowed under the legislation?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Peabody?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I have a couple questions as well. Mike, to date, what issues have we had with Cranbrook Tourism or Visit Cranbrook being the designated recipient?
Councillor Peabody, through the mayor, I wouldn't say that we have any specific issues. I don't believe we've brought anything forward as far as a report on satisfaction with the services or anything from that perspective. I think that should be a part of council's consideration what we do going forward. This report isn't meant to be providing judgment on whether or not they're the right designated recipient. But I think that if council chooses to look at a new selection process, there certainly could be a part of that process. So that's not the intention of the report, is to say there's reasons to look elsewhere. I just think, from staff's perspective and looking at what other communities are doing, at the renewal time is the time for both council and the tourism industry as a whole to consider what the best path is going forward.
And supplemental, if I may. Just so a question for CFO Osborne. Do we have the staff resources to handle the MRDT and I guess pass that on to Visit Cranbrook whenever they have an expense? Or how would this work?
Councillor Peabody, through the mayor, currently no. I mean, if it's just a matter of flowing money through, that's fairly straightforward, and we do that in other cases. This would be on a bit of a different scale, because typically when we do flow throughs, it's a grant and it's much smaller money and not a much shorter duration. So if there's going to be any requirement that city staff audit, verify, follow up, create controls, that sort of thing, we currently don't have the resources to do that.
Yeah, so I think in my opinion, and I think coming from my experience sitting on different boards as a council liaison, sometimes getting money from the city doesn't always happen in a timely manner, where funds have been promised, but funds don't always arrive when the board is hoping for them to. In my opinion, I don't see why we would want to change the MRDT going through us and not just directly to Cranbrook Tourism. Like, it's working very well now. In my opinion, they're doing some great things with that money too. Like, if you look at the numbers of how much tourism has increased in Cranbrook over the years, and just the amount the MRDT has increased over the years, like, it's almost $240,000. And the only reason why that's increased is because we're getting more people into hotel rooms. Like, the percentage hasn't increased in 7 years. It's been 3% 7 years ago, and it's 3% now. So I'm in favor, obviously, of staff looking at the agreement, but I'm not in favor of assigning a different designated recipient besides Visit Cranbrook.
Thank you. Councillor Papa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So being the city liaison for the last couple of years, you get an inside perspective, and I just think it's timely that we're having this conversation and hopefully pass this motion going forward, so the city can start working independently, but also closer with the Visit Cranbrook board and executive director. In the last 7-8 years, we've gone from establishing the program and broad marketing and promotions to now, I think the conversations we should have as a city is how can Visit Cranbrook start also focus on tourism, economic tourism here in Cranbrook. That's why the name was changed to now Visit Cranbrook as opposed to Cranbrook Tourism. We want the public to come to Cranbrook, stay, shop, enjoy, spend money, enjoy Cranbrook. So that's a timely conversation to start having with the city, whether we go to that designated or not. It's just having a closer relationship with tourism, and getting our voice out with the tourism so they can get some guidance, but certainly not formal direction.
Thank you. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I look forward to supporting this motion, and I would like to say first, thank you very much to Cranbrook Tourism, now Visit Cranbrook, for their excellent work. So moving forward with this motion, has been mentioned, is not a comment on that work, but I do think it's time for council to have a better understanding of how the program works. Why is it that 33 local governments are the designated recipient and we're one of 10 where we're not the designated recipient? So I'd just like to get a better understanding of that, what the reasoning is behind that, what are the advantages, disadvantages of either route. And then, I think affordable housing is top of mind for us now, maybe more than it was 7 years ago. It certainly is top of mind now. So just looking at those strategic priorities in the community and what are our options as they relate to this tax. So yeah, I think the focus right now is the report coming back with that additional information. There's no presupposition about next steps following the report, but I do look forward to just gaining a better understanding of where we're at and where we might want to go in the future.
Thank you very much. Certainly from my perspective, that this isn't really about Visit Cranbrook right now. This is the current application expires at the end of 2027. It is council's bylaw that authorize it. So council has to renew that bylaw. So certainly if we're going to renew a bylaw, we should be looking. No different than we do with every service or program that we have within the city. When it's time to renew them or time to review them, council has a look. We own it. We have a responsibility to look at it. And if things have changed, and lots of times things can change out there, certainly with BC Tourism, they brought housing into it, for example. So there could be changes there that we want to look at as a council that we feel in the best interest of our community. And certainly, for entertainment and whatnot within our community, we know we're shifting, as far as entertainment. The city's getting out of the entertainment business. So there's a change there. Is there a role for Cranbrook Tourism or Visit Cranbrook to play in that? So I think that's something that we have to do before we certainly just carte blanche approve another bylaw. No, thank you. Anything further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Are you opposed, Mike?
I'm opposed, yes.
Yeah, one opposed. Councillor Peabody. Okay. The final item in tonight's new business is CEO's office regarding 2026 UBCM minister meetings. Mark, are you going to lead us through this?
Yes, Mayor Price, so thank you for that. And it is time to nail down our list of topics and ministers that we want to meet with at UBCM. So the list is there in the report. We've had a number of discussions, but for tonight I do need like final determination from council, so I have time for all of the work required to put in the submissions for each of these. So with the due date coming up, if council could just work through them one at a time and give me that direction, that would be correct tonight. Thank you.
Pardon me, we'll walk through each one. Can I get a motion that council set the following topics for meetings with the provincial government at UBCM? Education, Amy Woodland Elementary School and former Muriel Baxter School lands. Minutes, Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you. Maybe before we do line by line, we were kicking this around last council, and I forget where the comment came from, but, you know, if we're going to have, are we going to go there as a delegation to be proxies for other agencies, or are we going to go there to be strictly of interest for what's the city of Cranbrook's interest? And I'm looking at 1 through 7, and some of these items are not directly Cranbrook's interests. We're one of the gentlemen at UBCM always called, we have to stick to our knitting. And a number of these line items are not sticking to our knitting. We're doing it as proxies on behalf of other groups, and we don't even know if these other groups want us to be speaking on their behalf. So I think I'd like us to consider these line items with that kind of a lens on. Are we sticking to our knitting, or are these things outside of that scope? So with respect to number 1, education, what does that have to do with the city taxpayer? I don't know. I'm asking the question.
Fair. Okay. So we'll go one at a time here. So this is with the Ministry of Education, Amy Woodlands, and right? Councillor Bassett, or Councillor Ray, sorry.
I know
Yeah.
it's, rather than, I know we are formally are supposed to do the motion structure, but I wonder if we could maybe have a bit of discussion first, and if that might clarify our motion.
I suppose we could do that. Yeah, let's speed it up. Okay, so we're not to the motion stage yet.
May I make a proposal,
You
Mayor
can.
Price? Okay, for council's consideration. Similar, along the same lines as Councillor Popoff. So I would propose focusing on 3 advocacy motions. So one would be the BC Builds project with the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Yes.
And that would be to reactivate the BC Builds funding and request a specific timeline. Number 2 would be to meet once again with Terry Young, the Minister of State for Community Safety and Integrated Services. We met with him last year, and that would be regarding the items regarding crime prevention from the Cranbrook Chamber of Commerce. They had a number of specific items. So that would be the number 6, Chamber of Commerce Crime Prevention. So Terry Young, Minister of State for Community Safety and Integrated Services, because we spoke with him last year, like he has some familiarity, I think, with us. And then number 3 would once again be the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs regarding public library funding. And that would be a copy and paste of our advocacy from last year, but that issue remains. And so I think that's worthwhile pursuing. And if I may, with council's permission, I would just briefly speak to the other ones. So regarding Amy Woodland, Trevor Crawley and the Cranbrook Townsman had an excellent article on June 5th summarizing the work that's underway there. It's happening. Our MLA recently spoke to this. So I think those wheels are already turning. I don't think we need to get involved with that. Regarding Councillor Stetsky's excellent focus on the Youth Detox and Recovery Center, the information we've received from the ministers to really focus our communications on IHA, and we have a letter coming up later in the meeting around that. So I think that's where we need to focus there. It's an important issue, but I think the advocacy is now with IHA. The Cranbrook Food Bank item that they raised is important, but is complex. And so that might be more something for a letter of support. Maybe we could work with them and do that with them, because it's quite complex with various facets. And then similar to what Councillor Popoff said for the solar project with ACAM. ACAM, of course, is the lead on that. The city is here to support upon request, but ACAM is the expert and the leader on that issue. So yeah, I would just propose those 3 items that I outlined.
You. Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you. I certainly support those 3, but I would like to see number 2 on the list, although IH theoretically is the lead. The minister has a final decision and a lot of influence on it. So I'd like to see number 2, that we proceed with that as well. Number 5 was an interesting one. It was a request from the food bank to ask for basically a provincial council to look at food in general in British Columbia, in terms of are there ways that the various food banks and other organizations, agencies that provide food can work together and achieve some, I guess, money savings or other kinds of savings. So it was promoting a provincial council, and potentially that could be a UBCM motion as well, if we think it's worth pursuing. But that was the concept behind it, is that food banks and other food agencies should be working together, and putting together a provincial council might help bring that work together.
Okay. Before I go back to Councillor Popoff, my perspective on this, certainly number one, Amy Woodland School, I believe we have sent a letter to the school board supporting an initiative they were going to undertake there, as we have on Mount Baker School, supporting a new school. So I think that's our role. There's advocacy, more than going to the minister. And certainly Councillor Stetsky, I totally agree with the Youth Detox and Recovery Center, but our last conversation with the minister, she advised that should probably be going through interior health. That's the level we should be dealing with, is the interior health within the region. So she sort of indicated that wasn't something they dealt with at their level. It was more at the interior health levels. Am I correct in that, Mark? And basically what?
So Mayor Price, yeah, so the last conversation, she was, pretty clear. So we'd have to think about what the conversation would look like if we went back to her with the same ask after her direction is all, unless it was repeating.
Okay. And then certainly the library, yes, we should be doing something there. The BC builds, I think it is on hold. You know what? I think there could be some light there if we can state our case. The food bank, again, a letter I think would be adequate there. The Chamber of Commerce of Crime, we're going to be dealing with that as a matter of course on some new initiatives and our relationship and where we are with the change of the local detachment and they're working on their strategic plan here in the next couple of weeks. So we should have some good information coming out of that strategic plan that we can take forward with some new initiatives there. ACCM, I think that's one again where we advocate. I think if the members of ACCM requested us to go down to Victoria with them or whatever, be it at the table with them or be in the room with them, that would be the way to go about that. It's really their business. We don't belong taking the lead on that business. And I'd like to add one more, is the Gold Creek Dam reconstruction in light of some of the recent potential project issues. I think we need to have a conversation. I don't know what ministry that would be. Infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mayor Price, it is the Minister of Infrastructure. That's at Bonwin Ma is the minister. Yeah. Or Bowen Ma.
Okay. So back to Councillor Popoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think we passed a motion or a resolution through AKBLG for the youth detox last year, and it was supported at the UBCM. So that's already, if I'm did not get passed at UBCM. Okay, thank you. Also, the library was a big, huge UBCM motions and support in general at UBCM last year. So is there anything new for the library or just the continuation of advocating for library funding? I don't know. So those are my two questions. And I thought the youth detox went from AKBLG through for endorsement at UBCM.
Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. No, actually what happened with AKBLG, it was a unanimous decision to proceed with it, and they did nothing. So they asked us to resubmit it this year, which we did, and it passed almost unanimously there. So I do think it's still high enough profile. I'm happy to go speak to the minister, who I know personally, on this, continue to advocate for this issue.
Okay. Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm not attending UBCM, but personally, I don't see any harm in Councillor Stetsky talking to the minister about this issue if Councillor Stetsky wants to go and talk about this issue.
Fine. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'll go through each one and we'll informally raise your hand and then we'll take it into a motion once we've kind of got to some form of consensus here. Number one, education, Amy Woodland. No interest. Youth detox and recovery. Okay, we're going to, Councillor Stetsky on that one. Library provincial funding grant. Yep, okay, we're good with that one. Housing BC Build funding? Yes. Cranbrook Food Bank and Security? Sorry, Wayne. Cranbrook Chamber of Commerce Crime Prevention? That's good to go. Acom Solar? Okay, that's gone. Gold Creek Dam? That's in. So, 1, 2, 3. I'll just take a minute here. 4. That's a total of 6. Okay. Can I get a motion? The council direct administration to book the following ministers, deputy ministers, crown corporations, or provincial staff by topic. Number 1, Minister Josie Osborne, Ministry of Health, Youth Detox. Minister Christine Boyle, Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, Library Provincial Funding. Minister Christine Boyle, Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs, Housing BC Builds Projects. Minister Nina Krieger, Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor, Solicitor General, Crime Prevention. And I'm not sure the Ministry of the Ministry, but the appropriate minister and ministry for Gold Creek Dam reconstruction conversation. Fair?
So that one is Ministry of Infrastructure and it's Minister Bowen Ma. Bowen Ma, Bowinn Ma, yeah.
This guy. So the mover was Councillor Stetsky, seconder Councillor Bissett. Discussion. Councillor Stetsky.
So a question for you, Mark, in terms of Acom and the solar project, do you want to approach the Nisukan and see whether they are intending to follow up with BC Hydro and whether it wouldn't be the minister, it would be Hydro. And of course, Hydro have invited municipalities to meet with them separately. So if you don't mind following up with them and see whether they would like to jointly pursue it, that wouldn't be a ministerial meeting, but it would be maybe an important show of our support for Acom.
And with respect, Councillor Stetsky, through the mayor, I think Nisukan would be appropriate through the mayor, because I could talk to the CAO, but
Yeah, for sure.
talk to the chief would be a little
I
awkward.
think the city should at least ask the question.
Yeah.
And
So
if we can
council would-
support them with BC Hydro, I think that would be good to do, but it wouldn't be a ministerial meeting.
Anything further, Council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks. Good work, guys. That'll make for some interesting conversations down there. Now moving into administrative updates. We have one administrative update tonight from corporate services regarding the 2025 draft annual report. Can I please have staff provide a brief overview? We have Chris Edel on hand. Dr. Z, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm pleased to present council with the draft 2025 annual report. It's ready to go out after this evening for public review and input. It will be available on our website starting tomorrow morning, and we will have printed copies available for the public here at City Hall. We will have some advertising underway, some shares on social media, and we certainly encourage the public to have a look and get back to us with any questions or comments. Under the community charter, any submissions and questions that we do get from the public will be coming back to council at your next regular meeting on the 22nd for your consideration and approval.
Thanks very much, Chris. Councillor Stetsky.
Yeah, just want to comment, it's an excellent report, very well done and reads well. Thank you.
Anything further, council? Okay. Moving now into correspondence, we have one item of correspondence tonight with a potential motion to approve release of a letter. Can I get a motion that council approve release of the draft letter from Mayor Wayne Price to Diane Shendrook, Vice President, Clinical Operations, Interior Health, regarding Youth Detox and Recovery Center in the Southeast BC as presented? Mover, please, Councillor Stetsky. Councillor Ray. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thanks, guys. That brings us now to Mayor and Council's reports and inquiries. Let's start with Councillor Popoff tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just one thing, two things. Whether it's the city or the workers at the apartment building on 4th Street North, someone cut a very nice trench all the way across 4th Street North. There's no bump signs. It's totally like 6 inches empty, or at least it was when I potholed out of it. Can we have someone take a look at that? Either fill it in or put some caution bump signs there so people slow down and not blow out their suspension. So it's right by the apartment.
Yeah, Councillor Popoff, through the mayor, I believe they did patch it over the weekend because I had the same concerns right before the bridge there at the apartments.
Right, yeah, right at the apartments.
Yeah, so I believe it has been patched, but I do need to follow up with the contractor because I believe they did not notify us of those works. So it is still a good reminder.
Thank you. And further, a couple of days ago, I shared with council my email called Walk Your Wheels. And there was a photo of what some other leading communities are doing, just alerting the riding public, whether it's bicycle, rollerblades, e-vehicles, whatever, that there are certain areas on public sidewalks, which we have a bylaw for, that you're not supposed to be riding. And I used the example that I actually had to jump out of the way because there was 3 folks on wheels coming at me on Baker, and a few comments the other way. But the photos there of what the city of Coeur d'Alene is using, it's just a stencil you put at every corner on the sidewalks, you spray paint it on, and it's just a reminder when you're there, I got to walk my wheels, not be roaring down the sidewalks where our bylaw prohibits it. So I'm asking if staff can consider, if the council agrees, one, doing an active media campaign so that people learn what the rules are, because right now we're not posting anything. People don't know where you can and can't ride. It's our job to post what the rules of the road are, in this case the sidewalks, in those designated areas. And also, if you like that stencil or another stencil, let's start actually spray painting something right there on the corners of these sidewalks, just to again remind people you're not supposed to be riding, scootering, whatever. You have to be walking your wheels. So it's just a comment, and I'd look for support from council.
So if I can speak to that, we've had a few emails in the last little while coming from concerned citizens. Certainly, I don't think that my news feeds I read every morning, I'm thinking about every third day there's something in another city where the concerns are. And, they're seeing that the alternate transportation programs are working wonderfully. But sometimes, there's a consequence to that. And it's things you got to iron out over time. It's new. I would agree. We should probably doing something. Mark and I met with Chris Zettel, our media relations manager, last week. And it was part of the response that I gave to the last couple of people that we're working with the RCMP. The RCMP agreed that they are seeing the concerns out there, and they're going to sort of up their patrols and their awareness, and they're going to start covering it on their homepage as well. But they're working with Chris for campaign. Yeah, to get it out there and bring more attention to the awareness, RCMP, right from that to helmets and whatnot, and these things. So yeah, it is being addressed.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mayor. And I think it's timely for the stencils now. If we're going to go that way, the stencils on the sidewalk corners, because we are currently have our painting crews in. So if we have those stencils made up, it's just bang, 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 and we can write those up too. The public need to know what the rules are. You can't blame them if they don't, because they don't know what the rules are. So they need to know what the rules are.
Maybe we can leave that with Mark to talk to staff, and they can cost it out and come back with something, Mark?
So yeah, I did refer that item to the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. I'm just given some good feedback from the team around, this is something we've talked about before, and with the advent of all of these motor or electric types of scooters and floaty overpowered bikes, everything else, it's active transportation, whether how active it is or not, in battery powered stuff, non-cars is a thing in Cranbrook. It's getting bigger. So the active transportation lanes in town are one way of dealing with some of that traffic. However, there's a lot of areas in town that aren't really supporting the active transportation lanes. And so the other issue is safety for the younger riders. So one of the concerns is, under 12-year-olds, we actually encourage them to stay on the sidewalks so they're not riding out in the street where it's dangerous. And so it's balancing the messages. And so we are having a conversation at the strat planning session with the RCMP, just given all these multimodal electric things that are starting to show up on the roads, our ability to accommodate them in active transportation lanes versus sidewalks or in the traffic, ages, power, so it's a big thing. And so that stenciling idea is actually, rather than me trying to get a decision right away, I pushed it to the Traffic Safety Committee is where I did leave that, just to give the advice of the balance, because they're seeing a lot of injuries with the really young kids on all this stuff too, and trying to keep them safe in balance with keeping sidewalk users safe. So it's a big conversation.
If I may, yeah, it's not my point that I want young children riding on the streets. It's my point that if the young children are on their wheels, they walk their wheels if they're in designated areas where they don't ride them on sidewalks. So that's the balance I think I'm looking for. Thank you.
Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Cranbrook Sunrise Rotary leads the We Bike program, and I didn't know this role, but someone recently brought that to my attention that 12 and under apparently are legally able to ride their bikes, and I think they meant pedal bikes on the sidewalk, and that it is safety. But yeah, there's lots of things going on, and it is confusing, and we want everyone to be safe, including pedestrians. So very good. Along those same lines, CAO Furcho, do we have an update from management's Traffic Safety Advisory Committee? We had a parental concern about kids riding their pedal bikes to TM Roberts on 4th Street South, with particular concerns about crossing 11th Ave South and 7th Ave South.
Yes, Councillor Ray, I do have an update. Sorry, I've just get a million emails in a day here, and I'm just trying to find this one. 1 second here.
And I'm directionally challenged, so it was really amazing that I was able to list those streets and avenues.
So I guess one of the questions was the frequency of the meetings, and the Traffic Safety Committee meets when they have about 10 or so items, and it typically ends up meeting really only 3 or 4 times a year. But that one item that you're raising for that one particular resident that's asking, let's see. Okay, I need to get in there. So that did go to the Traffic Safety Committee. It was sent in, so February 26th. So at the end of February, it was sent to the Traffic Safety Committee. So, so March, April 9th, so this month later, it had been discussed and the resident was advised of the outcome. And there was some follow-up on May the 7th. But it was looking at traffic safety standards and what the request was, and if that could be accommodated within the budget this year, if something would need to be included for next year in terms of creating a plan and a change in that particular location. So without spending a lot of time on this one, there has been communication between the Traffic Safety Committee and the resident, the last one being May 8th.
Okay, thank you very much. And just in terms of an update, I was honored to attend the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meeting these last few days, along with Councillor Graham and Mayor Price, and certainly right across the country, common threads around housing, below market housing, infrastructure challenges, and multifaceted social disorder, as well as the need for civility in our communications in our communities, particularly around controversial issues. So I appreciate the opportunity to attend. And in the coming days, there's lots going on in Cranbrook. So there's a number of great activities that Cranbrook Pride is leading. So Faces of Pride is happening at Key City Theatre. There's an art show at Cranbrook Arts as part of Pride Month. And then Pride in the Park on Saturday. So that's all going to be fun stuff. And this weekend, there's a youth KISA tournament. So that soccer tournament used to be part of what is now Spirit of the Rockies, but I think it just got to be too much to all be on one weekend. So if anybody wants to go up and watch some amazing young soccer players, that'll be happening this weekend as well.
Thank you. Councillor Bissett.
Well, thank you. I was thinking, as Councillor Popoff was talking about the issues around e-bikes and scooters and that, and we are at a time of change in transportation. And one of my sons was commenting on the weekend about how they feel that actually e-bikes have made a bigger difference as far as greenhouse gas emissions than electric vehicles even, just because of the frequency of use. But there are some growing pains and changes and that, and so I think that's what people are talking about, and but we will sort it out eventually. Along with that, bike racks. I had mentioned before about a bike rack at Memorial Arena, and I was there recently, and I don't think there is. There's a couple bike racks at Western Financial Place, but I'm not sure that there is at Memorial. At least when I went there recently, there wasn't. So I do think we should have that at our arenas. So if staff could have a look and see if we can do something on that, that would be great. And then also, you know, with all the rain we've had, everything's growing well. And some things that you want to have grow well are doing well, and some things that you don't want to have grow well are also doing well. And so there was a complaint about weeds and that I saw from staff have addressed that then. We do have a complaint-driven bylaw system in town, so people do need to get a hold of bylaw if they have concerns about this. I know there are some areas around town where things are growing like crazy. And so it may be something that can be addressed fairly quickly. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peabody.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing tonight. I was inquiring with bylaw earlier today about what the city can do about graffiti. There's a lot of graffiti in our community, and it turns out that we don't have a bylaw. It's not part of our unsightly premises bylaw. So I'm just wondering if that could be delegated to staff to, bring forward to council at some point.
So yeah, I could either take that and have, ask of staff, or if council would like to provide me with that direction, and perhaps you could share our video.
Yes. So I should make a motion then? Yeah, so I'll make a motion that staff bring back amendment to our notice of motion. Notice of motion for the next meeting?
No, I think a notice of motion for the next meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that this is a minor amendment to a bylaw. It's not a whole new thing. So I think if council just provided that direction formally, if all of council decides that we should include graffiti, then as staff, I can ask my team to start to work on that. It's not a brand new whole item like a notice of motion would require.
Okay.
So if all of council is supportive of that, I can just take that direction away.
Perfect. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, then I hope the bylaw can bring back the amendment to the unsightly premises bylaw regarding graffiti and giving the city capability to have businesses remove graffiti off the premises. But worded nice, better than that.
Second it, if you need.
Seconder is Councilor Bissett. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike. Councilor Teske.
Yeah, thank you. There's been a lot to celebrate over the last 2 weeks since our last meeting, and I'm just going to run through it quickly. May 26th was the Youth Ambassadors speech and dessert session at Eagles Hall. We're very fortunate. We're going to have 2 excellent youth ambassadors again heading into this next season. May 31st, Cranbrook hosted the BC Core Fest, which brought together senior and junior choirs from around British Columbia. Quite an amazing performance at Key City Theatre. June 2nd, of course, we stood out in the mud at our reservoir for the UV plant shovel celebration, I guess you could call it. Our new UV plant for making sure our water is safe into the future. Was kicked off on that date. That evening of June 2nd, I had the honor of being the reviewing officer for the Cranbrook Army Cadets Awards Night. On June 3rd, Mount Baker choirs and bands under the amazing direction of Evan Buchert performed at Key City Theatre. Incredible. And when you have 50 high school kids sitting in a choir, that tells you a lot about the quality of the leader, Evan, and the school itself, and the kind of performances that they put on. June 4th, I had the honor of welcoming the Fraternal Order of Eagles from around British Columbia. Cranbrook hosted this year's convention for the Eagles, and there were about 130 participants that came from around British Columbia, and also some from some of the states as well. June 6th was Trails Day. A really important initiative that is going on. If you haven't signed up at participaction.com yet, you should. It's looking right across the country at participation, and it's participation levels by population that count. And so from across Canada, we are now in 3rd place, and there's $100,000 at stake. So if you haven't signed up, please go to participaction.com and sign up. You just list your activities, and it's not by kilometer. It's that if you go out for a walk, you check the walk box. If you went for a bike ride, you check the bike box. You did some gardening, you check the gardening box. So it's based on the number of different activities that you're doing, not how much you do in those particular activities. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, of course, we have our major celebration for the year, Spirit of the Rockies. The 17th actually is the National Indigenous Peoples Day celebration at noon. here at, I believe at Rotary Park. Spirit of the Rockies actually starts on Thursday, the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. And yeah, that'll take us up to the next council meeting. Couple of initiatives, CO Furcho, red light cameras for Victoria Avenue. If you can let us know what it takes to get some red light cameras in place.
So Mayor Price, through to Councillor Stetsky, the typical process is that ICBC identifies high collision intersections and they actually drive the process. But a city can make a submission requesting that they take a look at a certain site with a recommendation. So it's driven by stats and controlled by ICBC, but we can certainly make a recommendation.
So would you like a notice of motion then around that potentially and see whether the rest of council supports it? Because I can tell you about 50% of the time as I'm standing at the light at Kootenai Street and Victoria Avenue, somebody heading up Victoria runs a red light almost half the time. So Mayor Price, through to Councillor Stetsky, just given the nuances around, I'm not sure the right words that they would be looking for. Perhaps a notice of motion might be best, and then I can work with you on the contents of the wording that would be acceptable for that proposal, because I just don't have that here with me. Okay, that would be great. So consider it a notice of motion. Last thing, I had one of our citizens bring forward the concept of commemorative crosswalks, which are in place in a number of communities across Canada. Look them up if you haven't, just go online and look up commemorative crosswalks. So I made a phone call to the Legion and they are having some discussions in terms of whether they would like to see one of those for Cranbrook. Basically, here at Rotary Park, heading to the memorials that we have there to our armed forces personnel from the past, might be a suitable location, but if you can picture it, it's basically often got poppies or Canadian flags, and lest we forget, or some other commemorative saying on it, on the crosswalk itself. So Legion may be coming forward with a request. So if you want to get ahead of the game, Google commemorative crosswalks and have a look at them because they're really quite attractive. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of things. I'd like to thank Councillor Stetsky for standing in for me, doing the welcome remarks at the Fraternity Order of Eagles Conference. Thank you very much, Wayne. Secondly, with council last week, I think pretty well all council members were there at the UV disinfection project grand opening, or groundbreaking rather. They're well underway, so that is moving forward. And I get a question for Mark. Mark, daycare groundbreaking at the Western Financial, our daycare project is not. I'm not looking for a groundbreaking ceremony. I'm just curious when they plan to start construction.
Mayor Price, the date, I could have it right here. We're planning to start the works right after the Spirit of the Rockies, so there's no conflict. So I don't have the exact date here, but it's time to be after all of the busyness there.
Okay, yeah. I just had a number of inquiries from the public, and yeah, that certainly makes sense to get that out of the way first. So yeah, that's all I got. That brings us to the end of tonight's meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Ray, Councillor Lissette, all in favor? Opposed? Adjourn.